Awesome. So welcome back to the MOGL podcast. Exciting opportunity, exciting game coming up this weekend. First time that College Game Day is heading to Durham. So, Q and I are both excited for it. Just a bit of background on Quentin Harris. He's originally from Wilton, Connecticut, went to the Taft School in New Jersey, where he was a 4-year letter winner and the number 22 dual threat quarterback rated by ESPN. We were battling for some positions there. Q also competed at a very high level on the baseball diamond. Quentin he ultimately decided to attend Duke University to play football. At Duke, he started 14 games, completed roughly 60% of his passes, total 38 touchdowns as a Blue Devil. He went on to graduate from Duke in 2019 with a degree in public policy studies, a minor in economics, and a certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship. I see that Riley's also doing public policy, so it might be something in the water down there. I don't know what the common ground is for the public policy degree, but and then Q and I share a couple of things dear to our hearts. Q introduced me my 5th year to Jordan Hayes and the Hayes family. We both spent our last year at the University of Central Florida. Just want to congratulate him and Sabrina on their marriage, and then JoJo on becoming a big sister.
Yeah,
big time, working on number 2, or successfully have number 2 on the way.
Conceiving number 2, yep.
Right. And then both trained by the one and only Medee Williams out of New Jersey, who played quarterback at Syracuse. And I think I speak for both of us when we say he was an integral part of both of our processes coming through high school and beyond, and a lot of other, youth quarterbacks and athletes within the Northeast region. So big shout out to Medee. Some things I didn't know about Q is that we're only 6 days apart in birthdays. I'm December 17th, 96.
Okay, see, I didn't know you were a December baby too.
And then I was gonna say we're a Sag, but I think Sag gets cut off maybe like that.
Right. I think it's the 22nd. Yes, I'm a Capricorn.
That's wild. I don't even know anything. I don't know anything about the signs. I couldn't care less. So Sagittarius.
We'll skip over. Yep.
And then the final part here is that I didn't know Q was. I didn't know you were part of a legendary football family, man. So Quentin's dad played DB at Georgia between 81 and 84, I believe, or 82 and 85. And then 2 of his cousins played at the University of Miami, and his grandfather and 2 of his uncles competed for HBCU, Florida A&M down there in Tallahassee. So welcome, man, and thanks again for taking some time this evening. I know it's late.
Yeah, of course not. It's all good. Appreciate you having me on.
Was there ever, right into the questions, was there ever a question about which sport you were going to play at the collegiate level? I know you played high-level baseball, but then, being a part of that family that I just mentioned, was it ever like, yeah, Q, you can go play baseball, or is it like, we know what you're going to play at the next level?
Yeah, I would say, the sport that came naturally to me was football. And I think, having my dad have that background growing up, he played quarterback in high school before he went to Georgia, and he played a little bit of receiver, played a little bit of DB. So he was well versed with all the different positions. And, I think once he realized that I had the talent to be able to play quarterback and, under his kind of tutelage, I was able to kind of develop and got to a point where, that just came naturally to me. I was able to kind of compete at a high level. So definitely was always drawn towards football. Really loved baseball too. It wasn't like, my dad or anybody in my family pushed me towards one or the other. But definitely, football, really loved it. That was probably my first love growing up as a sport. And then, you combine that with the opportunity to be able to earn a scholarship. There are much more opportunities with football than, baseball or other sports. So combining that opportunity, I felt football was the one that I was the best at and also provided the best opportunities for me.
Yeah. That's so interesting, man, because baseball is usually, you talk about anybody who's getting crazy money in the NFL right now from a quarterback, like baseball is usually the foundation of just throwing, right? Like Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, and I'm sure a bunch of other guys. So it's interesting that yours was, kind of your first love was football. But
yeah, I would say both kind of happened. I mean, I started T-ball too around the same time, T-ball, flag football. I'm not really sure how I learned how to throw. I'm just assuming my dad must have had me out there just getting reps in,
Yeah.
But I do remember, and this is another shout out to Medee, I definitely had to change my throwing motion when I started to go see him just to be able to get more power on the ball. Because I kind of had, like you said, more of a baseball influence where I would kind of play like a shortstop, almost whip your arm as opposed to trying to get it back in a good position and really generate power with your hips and lower body. So definitely the two played off of each other. It was always hard to transition going from football season into baseball because the motion was a little bit different.
Right.
Football, you're
Right,
trying to
right,
keep
right.
it compact,
It's
and
like a
then,
mental thing of like, yo, I'm on the diamond now versus
exactly, exactly. So it always take me like a week to kind of, hone in on how to throw it. But,
yeah,
once that happened, it was smooth sailing. But yeah, definitely the two played off of each other.
for sure. And then Quentin mentioned that he's down in Charlotte now, obviously heading to the game this weekend as Notre Dame takes on Duke. I don't want to get the rankings wrong, but obviously College Game Day is down there for the first time in Durham. What do you expect, having spent 4 years on the campus, or maybe 5, what do you expect the environment to be like?
Yeah, I think it'll be fun, man. I was fortunate to play in a couple of big games where we were ranked while I was there, and just the energy and the atmosphere is definitely different. Everybody obviously loves to support a winning team and a successful program, and so thankfully, Duke has been able to kind of stack some wins together. A really nice win against Clemson at the beginning of the year. I expect it should be pretty fun, man. It's the game day setting up right in the middle of main campus there, so right next to the chapel. So I'm sure it'll get a lot of people coming through that area. So I'm excited to see the atmosphere, excited to see the game and everything. And it's definitely one that I've, got somebody I know on both sides. One of my former coaches, Jared Parker, he was our receivers coach while I was there. And so now, him being the OC there at Notre Dame, definitely have ties on both sides. So I'm excited for the game. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's so many ties, man, between the two of us. And, College Game Day, 2 weeks back to back for Notre Dame, which is pretty unique, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know the first time that's happened, but this is the first time Notre Dame is taking on Duke, and both of them are ranked in the top 25. So pretty awesome. I guess, speaking about coaching, what's your take on this year's team and Riley Leonard, who's playing some really good ball, and what would you attribute his early success to?
Yeah, I think it's always tough when you move on from somebody like Coach Cut that, has been there at Duke for, over 10 years. He's done a lot of great things for the program, did a lot of great things for me while I was there. So really impressed with Coach Elko in his first, kind of year plus here. Seems like he's definitely instilled a great culture, atmosphere for the guys there. And it's been cool to see some of the guys that, were freshmen when I was leaving now become seniors and people in leadership positions, and seeing how they evolved over their time there. So definitely seems like he's got a great culture established there. As far as Riley, man, I think he's just done really well to continue to develop each year. I didn't get a chance to be directly with him, but in passing while I was still kind of on campus finishing up a degree, I would see him and Jordan Moore and some of those guys on the team, and definitely seem like great guys. It's uncanny how much he looks like and plays kind of like Daniel, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And maybe that's attributed to them having the same QB coach there with QB country, but definitely he's done a lot of great things, really utilizing his athleticism, being able to kind of be a dual threat there, and just doing a good job taking care of the ball. So, anytime you take care of the ball, put your team in a position to win, you're going to have some good results. So definitely he's off to a great year plus of starting here.
Yeah, that's the quarterback's job, right? Don't lose games for us.
Right.
You don't have to be the reason that we win, but just don't be the reason that we lose.
Exactly.
Also, another overlap is Coach Elko was at Notre Dame for, I think, a year, if you remember that.
Okay. Yeah.
He was our defensive coordinator. Maybe during the time that you were playing, I'm trying to remember what year.
Yeah, I think.
But
So I was there 15 through 19, and I know we played.
I mean, he was there.
I think 3 times. Yeah. You're trying to think of the year that he was there. Yeah.
When you were playing. But
gotcha. Yeah.
he's a Jersey guy too. So I guess a little bit back to your recruiting days, man, and us kind of battling it out against all these other quarterbacks across the country who were in our class. Kyler Murray, Blake Barnett, Joe Burrow was part of our class. He wasn't highly.
Was Kelly Bryant part of it too? I believe. I think he might have been.
He was also a part of our class.
Yep.
So we had a pretty talented class, man. But my question is more so on your college decision and really what ultimately led to you making the decision to end up in Durham and attending Duke.
Yeah. So I think my parents always instilled in me the idea that you want to be able to use your athletic talents to be able to parlay that into a scholarship offer, and you want to try to maximize the university that you attend, being able to understand that football only goes for so long. But education can last you a lifetime. So having that in mind, I definitely wanted to go to a school that I felt had elite athletics, but also an elite academic degree as well. And Duke definitely fit that bill for me. for me, knowing the academic prestige that the school had, as well as combining it with being able to be coached with under Coach Cutcliffe, who had a successful history of working with quarterbacks, it kind of felt like a no-brainer to me a little bit, just given his success. And, I fell in love with the campus when I went down too. Didn't hurt that there were some cool basketball games along the way.
For sure.
So definitely a good recruiting piece there as well. But definitely just kind of fell in love with the school. Really liked, and unfortunately only ended up staying 1 year, but I really liked Coach Scotty Montgomery as well when he was the OC my freshman year. I know we had built a pretty good bond as well. So, but definitely kind of was drawn to the school and drawn to the coaching staff there.
Yeah. I didn't even think about, we could have a whole hour-long conversation on the basketball relationship and whatnot.
Yeah,
Who was
definitely.
there? Who was there? Who was kind of the guy when you were
Yeah.
recruiting, on the recruiting side, when you were, or I guess when you were going through the recruiting process, like who were you watching?
Yeah, I remember. So my junior day that I went to, and this is when, because Christian Wilkins was another Northeast guy, went to
Yeah.
Suffield Academy. I was on the trip with him, and that was when Jabari Parker was there.
Okay.
You had Rodney Hood, those guys. And then while I was there, I mean, there was so many. You had anyone from Luke
Imagine Zion.
Kennard. Yeah, Zion.
Imagine going on a recruiting trip and watching. You know what I mean?
And watching Zion. Yeah, like how
in
do you?
in the arena, man?
Right. How do you say no to it, right? I mean, Zion, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, those guys, that was I want to say going into my last year. So that was a fun year. You had, Brandon Ingram, Jason Tatum. So a lot of fun guys come through there, along the way. So it was always good to check out a game or two when we could.
Yeah. And then you speak about the prestige on the academic and the athletic side of attending Duke. And then you add into the equation in the bucket, name, image, and likeness. Do you think schools like Duke, Notre Dame, Stanford are set up well when it comes to name, image, and likeness and structure and opportunity, right, around monetization specifically? Or, do you think we're set at a disadvantage just because, sometimes we can be stingy and stuck in our ways and say, we have other benefits that are, outweigh the
Right. That people would argue.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. Like it's definitely a lot better. I mean, I just missed kind of NIL coming into effect when I left school. It's a little bit of both. Like I definitely think, current guys in the team are utilizing NIL and, having their deals and everything, which is nice to see. But I do think, to a certain extent, like you said, some of these academically oriented institutions, sometimes they, kind of, like you said, stuck in their ways a little bit or a little bit slower to embrace some of the modern trends.
Right.
So, I think thankfully Coach Elko seems to have brought a fresh perspective into athletics and how you can kind of utilize NIL and all of that good stuff, that it seems like he's definitely, fighting for opportunities for his players. So that's good to see. Hope it continues. And definitely would love to kind of see it continue to grow and, be more commonplace at places like, Duke,
Right.
Notre Dame, Stanford, not just necessarily the blue chip schools you think of when you think of college football.
Yeah.
I mean, Notre Dame. I guess Notre Dame fits into there, but Duke, Vanderbilt, Stanford, those type of schools. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's the reason you guys ended up beating Clemson, is because of the perspective that your head coaches have on NIL.
Hey, maybe, right?
Sweeney does not like it, man.
Yeah. I remember reading about that. He's very staunchly opposed to it.
Yeah, but he has some big creators on his team. I guess for you,
Right.
Q, I mean, I've been, obviously we've been, friends for a long time, and now I've seen you kind of transition into the business world, but then also you're doing your own thing from a content creation standpoint. So I guess my first question before we get into this, I only have a few questions left, but what would your approach have been if you think about, even from a freshman going in to maybe where you ended up senior year for NIL? Like where does your head go in your mind space as far as what avenues within NIL you would have taken advantage of?
Yeah, I guess the first thing I think of is kind of some of the brands you could partner with, or some of the events that you could do, being able to take advantage of NIL. So I think, at least from how I look at it now, it's very similar to kind of how I look at it as a content creator on the side is, you're looking at what brands kind of match your image, what brands do you want to endorse. So, I'm sure I would have looked into, probably some of the brands that I look into today. Definitely more, I think.
You were always kind of that.
It's funny because honestly, growing up, I wasn't as much. I kind of got into it like maybe my senior year of high school. And then honestly, when I got to Duke, some guys inspired me. Again, shout out Jordan. Jordan was always a stylish, fashionable guy.
Jordan had it like that.
Yeah, he was in his bag. So he always would come out with some Yeezys, and he was
Yeah,
on the Ultra Boost wave before everybody was. So he definitely put me on a few things there. So I
yeah,
started to kind of get into it from then, and then as I've gotten older, just kind of gotten more into certain things, and luckily that's kind of become an avenue that I've been able to monetize for me, and just kind of sharing my experience with clothes, and what I like, or what trends I like to to follow, or how I like to basically how I like to style myself. So. I'm
yeah,
sure I would have looked at, brands that I thought aligned with my, how I like to view things, I guess, is in
for
short,
sure.
how I would have approached NIL.
And then I guess kind of basing that off, my next question off of your answer there, what tips would you have for a current or future college athlete when it comes to name, image, and likeness and kind of strategizing, right? Is it probably, probably along the lines of your last answer, but if you have
Yeah.
any other thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is definitely embrace it. You want to be able to, profit off your name, image, and likeness, or, just be able to, use that, for whatever. Maybe it's a charitable cause or something like that. So I think that's the biggest thing that you can do from it is really just, don't be afraid to take advantage of it. And then the other thing is, probably almost the flip of what I was saying in the last answer, just make sure, you understand who you may be partnering with, and,
Right.
any kind of connotations that might come about from your association with that brand. Because, the last thing you want is to say, okay, hey, this brand is offering me X amount of money, which is maybe a lot, but, hey, they've got this, checkered past or this shaky affiliation where
Yeah.
it's going to reflect poorly on you. So you just always want to be mindful of your image, as a public figure, as even before NIL, you always wanted to be mindful
Right.
of, as a student athlete, who you're surrounding yourself with. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice, is just making sure that you're being careful of, who you're affiliated with, and then also definitely get somebody that understands contracts to review
Yeah.
it. I feel like I see stories every
You
now
see
every
that
now and
last
then
one.
of,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, guys owe, 25% of their future earnings to somebody that they may have
Crazy.
signed when they were 18, and maybe their family really needed the money, or for whatever reason, so be careful of those predatory people trying to take advantage of guys, that may
For sure.
not have the law background to
For
understand the
sure.
contract. Yeah.
For sure. And then my last question, man, before I let you go, is your score prediction, if you don't mind giving one this weekend. Because
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm kind of scared to even ask you that, but I'll let you rock with it.
Yeah, man, I think this is gonna be a shootout, honestly. Both offenses are looking good. I got to roll with the Blue Devils, but I think I'll probably go 38-35. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the score last time, not the last time, but one of the times that we played up in South Bend. And I believe maybe Deshaun might have been the quarterback at the time, but I
Yeah.
remember that was
Was
that
it
was
that
a
high?
big one.
Yeah, it was that high. Yeah. I
Uh-huh.
remember.
It was 38-35, I believe.
I just remember the last, Deshaun will remember this too. And
Yeah.
Deshaun and I are still tight, but just the last
Yeah.
throw, it was a slant route to Will Fuller. And we,
Yep.
and, we dirted it. We dirted the
Yeah.
ball. And it was like on fourth down, to
Yep.
go in and score. But I didn't know I didn't remember it being
I
that
think
high.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I remember that game was pretty fun. Like we had a kickoff return, I think, for a touchdown
Yeah,
that
yeah,
game.
yeah. The running
Yeah,
back
yeah,
was going crazy.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Sean Wilson, and then
yeah,
we had one play where I think it was like we had a read option, but then the X receiver kind of like did a stock block or whatever, and then he kind of came off late, and we dumped it to him. We had one of those
yep,
up the
yep,
sideline. Yeah.
yep, yep. That
So
was up our
yeah,
sideline. Yep.
yeah, exactly. So shout out Anthony Nash.
Well,
But yeah,
that was our 4-8 year, man. So you guys can have that.
hey, we've had quite a few of those in our history. So hey, used
Cool,
to it.
man.
But
Cool,
hey, not
Q.
anymore though. Now we turned the corner
Not,
now. So
yeah, I love it. I love when
yep,
Duke is good. Helps the ACC, helps football. You know what I mean? When
for
these
sure.
underdog schools are good, man. But Q, thanks so
For
much
sure.
again for joining. If you want to let the people know, whoever listened to this, where they can find you and see some of your fashion content, plug it away.
Yeah, for sure. So, appreciate you having me on, either on Instagram or TikTok, QHarris18. Appreciate a follow. Definitely putting out, men's fashion and lifestyle content. So check it out.
Awesome, brother. Drinks on me next time you're back in the city.
All right, man. We'll catch up.